Hello everybody, Testtubegamer here, back again. I wanted to talk today about picking a main and why you shouldn't, is the name of this video. And what I mean by that is, it's really good to get good with one character in particular, so you can have someone to fall back on when everything is failing. But it's very bad in this game to rely only on one character. There's so many different there's so many moments where you can use a different character more effectively than even your best character that it's really important to hot swap. So getting into the funk of playing only one character, even when that character is a useless character in that situation, is really detrimental to your success. Now, I know firsthand that getting a feel for each character is important in your own way, but learning the strengths and weaknesses is something that's going to take a lot of time. And so in order to be effective early on, you should probably stick to 1 to 2 characters per role. So if you're going to play a DPS class, you know, stick to it. Even if you want to, you can play the easier characters. You don't have to play Genji every time just because he looks cool. Playing the easier champions and more forgiving champions like Tracer, he has a lot of mobility and then a recovery spell that allows you to get out of sticky situations and stuff like that, is always a viable option. And then as your skill progresses over time, you can switch to the harder, more difficult characters. But it's important to learn a couple of them, because in a variety of situations you're going to run into brick walls if you don't know each of the characters in a different role. And as far as playing different roles, I wouldn't recommend just playing every role. It is important to fill out, you know, what your team needs. So like if your team doesn't have a tank, it is important to have, you know, be that tank. But you don't have to think of it like, oh, we don't have a Reinhardt, we're gonna lose, so I need to be Reinhardt. Here we didn't have a Reinhardt, and I didn't want to play Reinhardt because I don't think he's particularly effective in a game without a team. So I picked D.Va, and I actually really like D.Va's gameplay. And there's room for outplays and stuff like that, and she does moderate damage as opposed to Reinhardt, because Reinhardt is pure melee except for like a 6-second cooldown or something on his E. So he's good, but not, I would never ever take him in an environment where you don't have a lot of backup from your team. On another note, I took D.Va because of her mobility. I feel like her ability to dodge CC, and I illustrated it a couple times in this video, whenever Reinhardt tries to charge you, you can see right here, you can dodge out of the way, and then I use the ultimate not for kills but to zone. That's all that's for. And so now Reinhardt is in the middle of our group completely by himself. I'm battling Tracer, and no one could get past my ultimate in order to capture the point. So this is all fine if I'm chasing Tracer. I do waste a lot of time here, but it's okay. So keeping that in mind, you know, playing to your character's strengths and weaknesses will get you a lot further in a different match, as opposed to weighing yourself down because you think you have to play tank or support or something like that. You have to try to think of what your team needs and what role you can fulfill to the best of your ability. So I try not to stick, you know, I try not to keep in the mindset of like, oh no, I have to play support for the 5th time in a row, and instead I try to think of what my team needs. So like if they just need straight healing whatsoever, like that's all they need because they're going to be doing a lot of the damage, then I'll go ahead and play Mercy. But if they need some kind of like you need objective push and stuff like that, I will absolutely rock Lucio because of that ultimate. You can push objectives so much more effectively. Now Mercy has the revive, which is game changing. Like if you get a 4-man revive, you know, and everyone's ultimates are down, you're usually going to get the objective, but that's very situational, and you also have to put yourself in harm's way to use that. So just keep everything in mind. And all this video is to explain how it's really good to learn each and all the characters in the different roles, and how you don't have to be really amazing with each character. Just the strength of one character will outweigh the pros of how good you are with another character if that character is not good for the comp. So all these Widowmakers and stuff and McCrees that you see, when they're not pushing an objective but they're getting a lot of kills, they still lose at the end of the match. So that's all I'm trying to illustrate here. Now that the closed beta has come to an end, let's see. Oh, we've come. Open beta has come and gone, and the game will release on the 24th, and I'm really excited for that. I think the game will have pretty good success for the few months or whatever after release, and hopefully with enough feedback from the community, we'll have a good game, you know, for years to come. But overall, I love all the 21 champs. There's a lot of gray areas. It's not necessarily imbalances and stuff like that, but running into bastions and stuff when you are completely by yourself is nightmarish. It really, really gets old. You can count every single champion in the game has a soft or hard counter, and by that I mean like Bastion is a nightmare if you're pretty much any other character besides Hanzo and Widowmaker, because Widowmaker can two-shot Bastion, and he can't spray her down if she peeks around corners, even if he's like holding the left click, you know, at her location. So there are counters and stuff, but to have to go out of your way can be frustrating. I know in Team Fortress, you know, they had a little bit of stuff like that where if you weren't playing a certain counter to the classes that your opponents were running, you couldn't play. That's like, I talked with my friend during the open beta, and he doesn't like Hotswapping. I don't think that appeals to his, like the gameplay appeals to his nature. And I do. Well, I can occasionally. I don't like being forced into a role. Like in League of Legends, you before the match starts, you know, everyone decides, they usually call out, you know, I would like to play mid, which is mage or something, or I would like to play AD carry, which is like the ranged I don't know how to, damage dealer, I guess. But anyway, and so a lot of the time, the roles that are not wanted are support and jungle and stuff like that. And it just depends, but people will fight over getting the roles they want, and, you know, the people that are not so hard-headed will fill the rest of the roles. But it can get boring after a long, you know, when you've played the game for so long, you kind of start to rely on yourself for victory, which is frustrating because this is a very team-oriented game. And it's very, very difficult to carry in single or by yourself in a team-oriented game. So it's really hard to, you know, work around that mentality where you need to carry the game, but also be fulfilling to your teammates. You know, so like if they need a support, you can't not play support, and it's very, very, very difficult to carry from support. Not saying it's impossible, but it definitely doesn't help. So keeping all this in mind, and with this match in particular, I decided, since we kept him off the first point for such a long period of time, that it would be okay if I forwent having a tank, since they were pushing the card anyway, and they seemed pretty split up. This was a pretty easy match to win because they didn't play together as a team very well, but I figured having another DPS would be more effective. So I hot swapped to Soldier 76, which is a really, really good, easy character. I mean, if you've ever played any shooters like Call of Duty or any of those things, he plays just like that. So he has the spells to heal himself, that's what I had in mind, and then he does good range damage from mid to long range, and then he has the rocket, which is really, really, really effective at finishing off players that don't see you. So that's what I did. I just spent the whole rest of this match flanking the enemies and running in circles and killing them like away from the point. And it was just easy pickings. And I probably could have done something similar with D.Va, but I figured it would be okay to hot swap into this character. So when the game finally does come out on the 24th, I highly recommend trying every character once, finding the one that speaks to you the most, whether whether you're a DPSer or a support or a tank, or if you know, whatever you think you would like to do the most. And then picking 2 characters from that section and learning them more than the average bear. Take everything into account, learn all their spells, distances, damage ratios, and things like that. And then just sticking to it until, you know, you feel adequate with those, and then move on to another character. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.
Experience tranquility. You が我が敵を食らう
We almost got the step right up.
Oh, let's break it.